So it's 3 weeks to auto-assembly. 3 weeks. That's gone quick, hasn't it? Hello everyone, it's me, Robert, back for a very belated video, shall I say. Yes, auto-assembly is only a couple of weeks away, and where I'm not donning the green, it's still a Transformers t-shirt, so it kind of counts, you know. I don't have anything green at the moment. I'm in between holidays, what can I say? So yes, a lot of stuff happened last week, didn't it? YouTube lit up like a Christmas tree, and God knows how many videos from every single corner of YouTube came into existence. It was brilliant to see YouTube so lively again with everyone. So, you know, I went around last week, I was on holiday, so I thought I'd just talk about some of the stuff that came up and respond to a few people because, you know, we have to get into the spirit of things. So yeah, I have been on holiday for the past week, and while I was there, I did pick up some Transformers. First is this little guy. This is Constructorbot's Lockdown, the only Lockdown I'm ever going to get because, well, let's just face it, I don't like any of the others. Plus, this guy is so cool. I mean, for such a small dude, he is so poseable. He's got so much character as well. I mean, everything from the sculpt to just the way he transforms. And his Alt mode is the most bizarre car you'll ever see, but it's just so works so well. Plus, he's got a massive over-the-top Decepticon symbol. How can I not like this? What I also found there, while I was on holiday, is this little beauty. This is Combiner Wars Hotspot. Now, I haven't taken him out of his packaging yet, because I've only just got back. But, I've been looking for this character for a while. I mean, ever since it was announced that they were going to do the Protector Bots in Combiner Wars, I was definitely up for this guy. So, I can't wait to get him open, and I'm not really going to bother with Onslaught, to be honest. Come on, Hasbro, you can do better than that. Shoddy bits of repaints. Come on, give us some new molds for Combiner Wars. You know you want to. So as I was saying, there has been such an increase in videos over the past week. Old faces from YouTube have returned, like Stu and Ed. It's great to see you two back on YouTube doing videos again, and hopefully this will encourage more people who've been away from YouTube to start getting in the spirit of AA and making videos. Let's hope. So it's time to talk about some responses, and the first one is from Ian Airlift82, who has been getting quite busy recently with videos, haven't you, mate? You've been creating quite a lot of them, which is really good to see. And he is asking you, what is your favourite bots from AA? What are the ones that stand out for you? Well, there are two for me that stick out in my memory of being just great bots that I associate with brilliant memories of auto-assembly. The first one is in 2013. Now, this is the first time I met Ed in person. Again, it was fantastic. 2013 was my favourite year by far. And me and him were both looking for one of these throughout the whole of the convention. We was kind of in a race to try and find who could get theirs first. And I noticed one throughout the convention which was seemingly complete. You know, it looked good condition, it was a good price. I was like, well, I'm going to hold off until the Sunday just in case it goes down in price. I did, and it was still there on the Sunday. So I thought, well, I might as well get it. Just as I was about to get it, Ed snatched it up. But I'm not at all jealous that he got his first. It was great to see Ed. There was a lot of happiness on him. I mean, he's a happy man anyway, but seeing him with this certain bot coming out of the convention hall was just brilliant. Even though his was slightly damaged, it still made him happy. So I was like, right, what am I going to do now? The only bot that I've seen that I really want is gone. Let's just keep looking. And eventually I did find another one at the very end of Sunday, because that was the year when I was leaving on Sunday afternoon. And just before I went, about an hour before, I found it in Toys and Games at the very back of the hall. It was there. It wasn't complete, but it had most of the stuff with it. It was in good condition. The guy wanted, I think it was 120, maybe 130. I got it down to 100, which, you know, I consider quite good. And so I had to snap it then. And that is, of course, Generation 1 Scorponok, who is currently up there on my shelf looking gorgeous as hell. Just who doesn't like Generation 1 Scorponok? For me, he's one of the best city bots. Forget your Fort Max, forget your Metroplexes, forget even your Trypticons, as much as I would like to have a Trypticon. Scorponok. You know, he's a city, but he's also a headmaster. And, yeah, I'm just lovely. Now, I think, in terms of who got the better ones, better condition, I think mine is slightly better, because the chrome isn't as worn off. and Ed's Zarak was slightly broken, but his did come with all of the parts, so yeah, I really need to try and find his 2 other guns and the radar dish and some other bits like that. But for the most part, he's what I want him, to be honest. He's got his gun, he's got his shield, he's got Zarak, it's got everything to look the part, you know. And it was just the joy and the elation at the end of the day on Sunday that I finally found this bot after all of this searching for these many years of trying to get one. I found it the very last day, the very last couple of hours of auto assembly. And so after that, I was in heaven. I went back to the bar. I'm sitting with Dan, and that was the first time I met Luke as well, which I'm sure if you're around this year, AA, we'll get into a conversation of how we met, because that's a hilarious story in itself. But I was just so happy playing with it. It was that point of auto assembly that I remember the most fondness of 2013. I mean, there are a lot of great moments for me in 2013, but that moment was just brilliant because it was kind of the end of the convention, but there was just one last high of sitting around with everyone, playing with a Scorponok, but also talking to people and meeting new people. And that's what I look at every time I see Scorponok. I associate with that year. So yeah, that's the first bot. Quite long-winded, I know. Second bot, last year, 2014. We was in Swerves. I was on a table with Carl, Luke, Raz, Jim, and a couple of others. I think we'd just eaten something. It was either lunch or dinner time. And it was a Sunday. And Luke went out for a bit, and he came back in with said bot. And I was like, oh, where did you get that? Because prior to this, a couple of weeks before Auto Assembly that year, I was watching a video, actually a review about it from Vangelis, and when I tell you the name of this bot, you'll know exactly why I was watching Vangelis' review of it, because it's hilarious. Highly recommend you go and watch it. So I saw Luke with this bot and went, where did you get that? Ah, look at it, it's so cool. And he was showing it off, and I was completely enamoured with this bot. And so he went and showed me in the dealer hall where it was. And it was on a table at the back. It was, I can't remember the name of the table, but it was one of the vendors at the back, dealers at the back. And Luke got it down to 10 quid. I think they were selling it for 20 or 15. And so I was like, well, I might try my luck. And they also got it down. I also got it down to 10 quid, which I was over the moon with. So I got back into Swerves and was just, I loved it. Because when I tell you who it is, you'll know why. But basically this bot became synonymous with that part of AA for me because of certain things. I am, of course, talking about the TFCon exclusive Shafter, the third-party erector, and immediately you can kind of guess why that became such a funny thing, sitting around playing with a Shafter on a table. It was just bizarre, it really was. And then, of course, afterwards, it was when we went up to Jim's room, a couple of us, and recorded a podcast, which you're probably never going to hear, because it was just nuts. It was... If you listened to it, you would not get half of the stuff if you weren't at AA, or if you weren't in that small group of people that was actually there recording it, because it was so the stuff was so... It was so present at the time. It was about stuff that was happening then, that looking back on it now, you would not have a clue what was going on. I mean, like, I can barely remember that podcast. It was nuts. It was just nuts. But one of the things that came up in that podcast was Shafter and his extraordinary bio, because if you've ever read the bio of Shafter, good God, the amount of innuendos it has in there, just crazy. But that was, for me, the podcast recording, the sitting in Swerves, the chilling out with friends, playing with a bot, all of that whole part of the Sunday or Saturday? Actually, I think it might have been Saturday. Now I'm thinking of it. I think it was Saturday, yeah. It was Saturday. But that whole kind of experience, those couple of hours, were one of the standout moments for me of auto assembly last year. Because, like, I've said this many a times, but last year was okay, wasn't that best. But that was just a moment. So yeah, every time I see the TFCon Shafter now over there in the cabinet, I'm just like, oh, I do have a chuckle to myself because of those moments. So yeah, those are the two bots that I've really loved from Auto Assembly. I've brought more over the years that I've been going, but those are the two that stand out for me as just being memorable bots that just have so much significance for me personally with Auto Assembly. Now the second response is from that man who has been leading the charge this year of Auto Assembly videos. It is of course Tony. And Tony asks, what are you getting signed this year? But yes, he was talking about stuff to get signed. Now this is an unusual one for me because the guests that were announced prior to last week I did not care about, to be honest. They're Transformers Prime voice actors. I don't like Prime. I think that's become apparent now if you've watched these videos. And so trying to find something for them to sign is a bit hard. However, James Horan, who voiced Wheeljack in Transformers Prime, also has had a career in Star Trek. In fact, he played a Jem'Hadar in Deep Space Nine, which has gotten me over the moon when I found that out. However, I am struggling to try and think of anything to get signed. So, if you people watching this, or you fellow Trekkies out there, if you know something good that I can get signed from James Horan from his time in Deep Space Nine, or to reflect his time in Deep Space Nine, then please leave a comment below, because I'm puzzled, to be honest, and I don't have a clue. Even if I'm going to get a signature from the other voice actor, I can't even remember her name. That's how much I'm looking forward to those two guests. Which actually brings me on to another point, because something amazing happened last week with the community. Something that I never thought could happen. Something that just shows what happens if we put all of our minds together and we can achieve quite a lot. If you was at last year's Auto Assembly, you probably encountered one of the guests, known as Peter Spellos, aka Skybite from RID. He was, from what I heard, he was an amazing guest. Always had time for the attendees, so kind and friendly, and just he made people's convention last year. I, however, didn't get a chance to meet him. I saw him from afar. I believe on the Monday morning I was kind of whacked out. I was a bit zombified, and he was talking to Dave and a few others in the bar, and I was kind of sitting just away from them. But that's kind of all I saw of him over the convention. However, because people loved him so much, and because he has huge amounts of probably friendships have created from last year's event, Jamie, Magic Man, who is an amazing dude for doing this, started a campaign on Facebook to try and get Peter Spellos back for this year's Auto Assembly as the third guest. And it was basically, if you donated however much you could, they could try and raise, I think it was 6,000? Was that a bit too much? Something like that to raise to get him over here. So that's his flights and all of his other stuff. And I think Auto Assembly were actually going to pay for his room or something like that. But basically, it was to try and raise money to get him across there. And it started last week. It started, when was it? Friday? Because I was travelling Friday and I only noticed it on Saturday. Friday it started, and within 3 days they had raised enough, which means Peter Spellos is going to be at Auto Assembly this year, which I am over the moon about. I did donate. I donated 10 quid. Even though I've never met him, I would love to get the opportunity to meet him this year. And from what I hear, like, it would just make this year's Auto Assembly that extra bit special to have him here. So I just, it's awesome. We now have a third guest for Auto Assembly. It's Peter Spellos. It's going to be so cool. I mean, I was quite excited when we found out that they raised it. So yeah, but a huge thank you to everyone else who donated, to Jamie for actually setting it up, and Simon for also setting it up, and then to Simon and Trish at Auto Assembly for actually allowing him to get a room there and to come as another guest. So it's going to be so cool. I'm looking forward to meeting him. And so Ian, you're going to have to introduce me, man, because, you know him quite well. You're going to have to introduce me. So the last thing to talk about is not really about Auto Assembly. It's kind of something else. Now, I'm only going to say this once because we're not allowed to say this now. So I shouldn't really be saying this because, Tony's made the rule. But it's the last year of Auto Assembly. Shh, shh, don't say that. Don't say that. But anyway, which means it won't be there next year. However, something else has come up. Something called TF Nation, which looks to be another Transformers convention at the Hilton at exactly the same time in August, most likely, and this is just speculation, but run by people who was at auto assembly or who had a great input into auto assembly. So it's I don't want to say this now, but it's kind of auto assembly's replacement. I hate using that because it's going to be something new in its own right. It's not going to be the same as auto assembly. I mean, essentially, I'm sure they're going to try and lay it out as, but it's new. It's going to have new people running it, so it's going to have a new approach to it. But I'll get onto that more when details are more released. But basically, it's quite interesting. Now, I'm not going to say much about it now because I'm quite a skeptical person, and I don't know. I need to see more information before I can actually comment on it. But if it is another way to carry on this social experience that we've built up over the past several years at auto assembly, then that's brilliant. And even if it's nothing like auto assembly, it still means that there'll be a place where everyone can meet up once a year and just talk and socialise. So that's brilliant. And I'm looking forward to seeing more details as they approach, because so far they've only got a website, and I have signed up for their emailing list or whatever. But yeah, I can imagine once auto assembly this year is over, details of TF Nation will start to flow through. But anyway, we need to focus on this year's auto assembly before we even start talking about next year, because this year is going to be one hell of a time. It's going to be an amazing time. So that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to make this, I can't even say short, but it's now turned into a very long video, so I apologise if you're still watching. But I just needed to talk about this stuff because it's quite prominent to auto assembly. Plus, I haven't really been doing videos. As you notice, I was supposed to do this countdown, but now it's 3 weeks to auto assembly and I've missed 2 weeks off it. So hopefully this will count for something. I will be trying to make more videos over the next several weeks. Probably not next week because, I'm off again. I'm on holiday again. But the week after definitely, and the week of AA, I'll definitely try and make a video then. Because it's getting closer to it. And it's probably not even just going to be a talking video. Maybe a review. It may be a Star Saver video. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Who knows? Maybe. And with that, I will say goodbye to you, everyone. Thank you for watching. And it's only a couple of weeks away now until I see all of you in Birmingham for that social event that we've come to know and love. So until then, bye, guys.